Hello and welcome to Illuminating the Stories That Bind Us. I am your host and illuminator, Jennifer Carey. Join us on our mission to shine light on the false narratives and limiting beliefs that are holding us back from joy, bliss, and healthy relationships. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Illuminating the Stories That Bind Us. I'm very excited about our guest today. She is not only an incredible colleague and psychotherapist and laughter facilitator, but she's also a very dear friend of mine. So we are going to share about laughter and how laughter can shift our stories. So we're going to visit the benefits of laughter. We're also going to talk about the stories that are between us and laughter. If laughter is such a superpower, which we all know it is, why is it that we don't use it? Why is it that we don't access it more? And then we're going to talk about specific examples of how you can use laughter to break through our stories, to shift through our stories, to all the wonderful things that can be used by tapping into laughter. So welcome, Jackie DelVecchio. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. The last time I remember I was on a podcast with you, I had for the first time tried an Americano and I had never had espresso before. And I remember I was flying high on caffeine and was jittery. And so today I did not have coffee, just to be grounded.
That cracks me up. I forgot about that. That's so funny.
Yeah. So if you are going to publicly speak or, be on a podcast, just don't try espresso.
I agree.
So this time I learned my lesson and I'm good. No coffee.
Yay. Well, I'm so happy you're here. And I feel so fortunate to have you not only as an incredible, solid colleague in this field of psychotherapy, but also as a friend with your contagious laughter and your ability to use humor. And I think back, Jackie and I met, we worked at an agency where we were getting our supervision hours together. And I don't know if we could have survived had we not had those moments in between clients, right? I was working with like children and families in crisis. You were working with like substance use in crisis. And we had those like little moments in between where we would just laugh. Remember?
Oh, I remember. That is also what got me through that too,
Exactly.
There's no other way to survive.
I know. Exactly. Just being able to laugh at ourselves or laugh at random things, which we would do. We would laugh at just random things. And it was great. It's what got us through. So we know that there's so many benefits to laughter, right? Let's just start naming some. We know.
Well, I mean, yeah. Meaning like physical, all of it, all of the above. There's never ending. Yeah, never ending list of benefits. I mean, just like a few physically, right? Like it decreases our cortisol, which means we're less stressed. And if we're less stressed, then we're less tense, which relaxes our muscles. And if we're less tense and less stressed, then our blood pressure and our heart rate is down, which means we have a healthier heart. And if all of that is happening, then, our immune system is so much stronger, which can help fight infections. It also releases endorphins to laugh, which means less pain. And it's a workout. It is a workout. It uses so many muscles that it's also like a form of exercise. So if we were able to do all of those, like imagine how healthy we would feel physically just by laughing.
Exactly. It's amazing, the physical benefits. And I know, you talked about the cortisol and the endorphins, so then we could also say that mentally it's an anti-anxiety and an antidepressant.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's such a mood boost. And, anytime we're less stressed, obviously we feel in, our better self. Another huge part of like more the mental emotional piece is the connection with other people. And it really helps our relationships and, and it just helps us change perspectives, which is just so important, and being able to see like a different way, which when we're stressed and anxious and depressed, we feel very stuck. Like there's only one way of seeing something or thinking about something. So laughter and humor gives us that alternative, which is really important these days.
It's so important. And those two things, Jackie, the bonding and connection that happens, and then also the shifting. I see it so many times with couples, not only personally, but also when I'm working with couples, and if they can just like laugh at some of the things that they're bringing in, like I literally can watch them bond and connect in that moment. And then they also may just see their conflict a little bit differently.
Absolutely. No, that is huge. And that's really hard to do. Like that is not a natural thing for most people. And so it's really helpful to recognize that like this can be a skill that can be learned. And you do not already have to. I think people feel like, oh, I'm not funny, like you don't have to be funny. Like this is a skill to be able to shift that perspective, to kind of see that silver lining, to be able to look at like other, even if you don't believe it yet, but like look at other ways of seeing something or reacting to something. And, what you're talking about, like instead what we would normally might yell at, try laughing, see what happens, and it really breaks that up. And you can see that, you can feel it instantly, which is another cool, like, just like benefit of laughter is like there are more longer term effects that you can't necessarily feel or see right away, but so much of it is the short term. It's right away. It's that instant gratification. And like, just think of a time where you laughed so hard. I have never met anybody who has said like, oh, I felt so bad after that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
my stomach hurts, but like, oh my God, that was awesome. It just feels so good right away when you're able to do that.
It does. And it definitely interrupts, like we were talking about earlier, like the conflict. It interrupts it. I recently had an argument with my husband, and he was trying to help me with my website, which has been like one of these, like just major talk about stress, talk about like the cortisol, like whatever that's been coming. It's like my shortcut to stress, versus the shortcut to laughter. Shortcut to stress is working on my website. Anyway, he was helping me, and he seemed like agitated by it and resentful. And I don't know what like possessed me to say, I'm not proud of this. And I was in his place of work, which isn't, I'm not proud of that either. But I said, you need to go to church to learn how to be a cheerful giver. Like that's what came out of my mouth. And like, it was like, I was so angry and frustrated, but at the same time, I was like, what was that? Like, where did I just pull that from? So yeah, it is immediate interrupt, and like both of us didn't know how to like, it kind of lightened the mood a little bit. And the other thing that I heard you say is a perfect segue, because I feel like you said you don't have to be good at laughing. You don't have to. And I think that's a story that people will say like, oh, I'm not really funny. I'm not really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously for anxiety and depression, like it really is like a barrier of like feeling like they can't find that enjoyment or can't laugh at these things, and like feeling stuck around that. But what is awesome is, like I said, like you don't have to be funny. And actually, you don't have to be the one laughing. Like being around others laughing, whether it's contagious in a sense of you start laughing or not, you will feel those effects. It's honestly similar, a terrible example, but like secondhand smoke. Like you do not have to be the one laughing to feel those effects. And so like that's where the connection piece is so important, of like how even if you're not funny or feel like you can laugh, how can you still be around that? Right? Yes. Like how can you hear that? How can you watch videos of people laughing? How can it does not matter the way that you get it, but you don't have to be the one laughing yet. But the
Yes.
hope is that the more you're around it and open to that, that will just happen, and you will be able to experience that, which is amazing. So there is research around that too, which is kind of where people have obviously heard the phrase fake it until you make it, like
Yes.
there's research behind like how having a consistent practice of smiling, of surrounding yourself with laughter and humor, those are going to produce the same effects in the long run.
Those are such good quick tips, right? Those are you gave like at least 3 of them. So surrounding yourself with people who, like to laugh, maybe watching it, right? There's so many ways that we can access humor. I have like Jimmy Fallon and SNL going in my feeds all the time that I'm like, bloop, on a daily basis. And then also I loved what you said about just smiling. I know in DBT, I don't know if you remember, speaking of the agency, because I used to run DBT groups, there's the Mona Lisa smile, or like just if you just force yourself to kind of like
Yes.
give a little
Yes.
smile. It changes, it shifts everything.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Because as smart as our body and brain are, they also aren't that smart. So it's like they feel that smile and they're like, oh, cool. You're happy, right? So or like something good's going on. And so that sends that message. And so we want, to really work on trying to consistently send more of that message so that it eventually creates those pathways to, being able to kind of see the cup, half empty. I mean, half full, not half empty.
Yep.
Totally full, whatever you want to call it. But, so it is a practice and it is a skill, but anybody can learn that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It feels like we're breaking through the stories that hold us back from laughter. So feeling that you're not good at it, feeling you said that there's, you're so depressed or anxious, like you can't even get there. And then there's also like, we're supposed to be serious, right? Or that it like invalidates, if, something like if we laugh at something, maybe we don't take the seriousness of it. We're, it's kind of black and white instead of being able to hold both. Like, I made a joke out of something I said to my husband, but it was valid that we were both frustrated with the website. Like both could exist simultaneously, but often we'll have a story that's like, no, you're canceling it out.
Yep. Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. So, which combines a little bit of like more of a serious matter with also like, how can you also add laughter to it? So I don't know if you've heard of the audience has heard of Lynn Lyons, but she is a local social worker who works with, families and kids and, very much focused on, childhood anxiety in parents. So she spoke recently and I went with a friend to go see her. And I have a child with anxiety. I have anxiety. My whole family has anxiety. Like it's useful, practical skills to learn. So me and my friend showed up a half hour early because we were anxious and wanted to get there, right? We wanted to be there. So we get there. First one's there. The whole audience totally empty. We're the only ones there. So she's on stage getting ready and setting up. And she looks at us and she said, do you have anxious kids, anxious parents? And we're like, oh yes, like totally. And I see the stack of books next to her and I go, oh my God, you're referring to the book. And she goes, yes. We started dying laughing. Cause it's like such a vulnerable moment of like, yes, we're here for anxious kids, anxious parents.
Yeah.
And she's like, I have some extra books. Do you want one? And it was just so perfect for the moment because it's like, hey, we're going to learn about how to help our children, how to help ourselves. And like, it's a serious topic, right? Yet it was just so perfectly, ironic for the whole scenario. So anyways, we got a free book signed by her and it was awesome. It totally was hilarious. But, that's a situation in which it can be serious. I was there for serious stuff, and to learn and to listen. but it also, like how to just lighten that up, right? Lighten up, not tighten up. So, it's just so
lighten
important.
up, not tighten up. I like that one. Lighten up, not tighten up. Putting that one in my pocket. That's going in my pocket. I like that. It almost makes me just like immediately check to see how tight I am and just lighten up.
We're always tight. Always.
I
We just don't even
know.
notice it. I know.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I love it. Yeah. So like you were still there for a serious, important lesson, but like there you could still lighten up and laugh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That doesn't mean we care any less.
Exactly. Exactly. That's another story, right? Uh care less. Another thing that people say is like feeling awkward or looking stupid. Um, and it's funny, I have a story too. I have to tell you that preparing for this podcast, Jackie, I realized that I have a huge story that binds me from using laughter on this podcast. Okay. So I'm trying to think of which order to tell this. I'll start. Last year, I was in my hometown and I saw a dear friend who's known me since I was like 6 or 7 years old. And she and her husband, who I've known him since high school. They were high school sweethearts, all that. Anyway, they said to me, Jen, we see you on Facebook and stuff, and you're like a Morgan Freeman. You're so peaceful, and it's so cool to hear how you like meditate and help others, and it's very soothing. I was like, oh, thank you. And then Darla, the wife, was like, but Jen, ever since we were kids, you were always so funny. Where is your humor? And it was like, I mean, talk about like one of those things like feedback that just hits you like, you are spot on. Like, where is that part of me? And so fast forward, literally a few days ago, I was doing a podcast with Michelle Gallant. We'll talk about her a little bit more later. And we were talking about um, illuminating the stories that bind us through our bodies. And we were talking about how my posture, sometimes my shoulders come forward. And I got to the part of like talking about how anatomically that's the case for me. And I was like, my weight is on top, Meanwhile, what was playing in my head is my junk is up front. And like that would be what normally a part of me would say is like, all my junk's up front, And like that's me, that's natural. Like just being able to say phrases like that. I didn't. So I actually have a story too. And I thank Darla because I want to incorporate more humor. I think I do it more live, but there's some story in these podcasts where I'm like, no, be proper. Or I don't even know. I don't even know what the story is. But thank you for like this prep because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it here.
Yep. Lighten up, not tighten up.
Lighten up, not tighten up, right? Yeah. One of the reasons I'm hunched is my junk is up front. Now I said it.
And this is a perfect space to be able to, but I think that all the reasons, I mean, not all of them, but probably most of them, the reasons that we don't laugh are the exact reasons that we need to laugh, and it's just being able to break down that belief or story of what that means if we laugh, I mean, obviously the funny running joke of like, don't laugh at a funeral. Like, that's not what we're talking about, but everybody laughs after, don't they? You go and you talk and tell stories and you share that connection with others. And so being able to, break down that belief of what it means if we're laughing in serious situations, I think is a huge piece of it.
It is.
That doesn't mean we're not taking things seriously. That it actually is like, this is serious and this is part of healing, is part of feeling better, is part of seeing other ways of looking at this, and so that is a huge part of being open.
That's it. I wish you could get on a megaphone, Jackie, and say that to like the world, right? Like laughing is part of healing. It's part of healing because I actually preparing this podcast with you, I realized
yes, you and I are on a mission to help people use laughter to shift their stories. But I just realized how many stories are between us and laughter.
Yes.
It's like the first step is like, all right, let's break through everything that keeps us from accessing that's built in us. Look at little babies. They
Mm,
giggle so
yeah.
naturally, right? Children,
Yeah.
and they don't struggle with laughter as much as us. Most, I understand that there's some that do, may come out like out of the womb a little bit more serious than others, but
Mm,
they really have this ability to just be lighter.
mm. Yeah, that's also what's really cool about laughter is just that it's so universal and everybody does it.
Mm-hmm.
Animals, babies, everybody understands it and knows what it is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. It is. It's in every culture. It's in every, yeah. Ah,
Mhm.
that's got me thinking, but stay focused. Okay. So yeah, so we talked about how it can help you look at something differently, reframe something.
Mhm.
Um, Laughing at ourselves and our stories can empower us. Like even the example I just gave, like I think moving forward, I just being able to laugh at the fact that I have some sort of belief about being proper. I think
Mm.
it's going to empower me to say, like, well, maybe you should try doing it. Maybe you can be lighter and not tighter.
Yes.
Not everywhere. Um, yeah. And the other thing I think in shifting our stories, a lot of times when we hold our stories, would you agree with this, Jackie? We're in like a fight or flight state or even
Mhm.
freeze when we have like stories that are binding us, and laughter helps us kind of break out of that state.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, part of the work is being able to realize how useful of a tool it is, as opposed to like, a way of just minimizing it or a defense mechanism. It can be that, but it also
Yes.
can be such a useful tool in that healing process.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So I know you and I are really hoping to use laughter in workshops and
Mhm.
a retreat in September. And I know that we're excited because we know it's going to help bonding and connecting.
Mhm.
We know it's going to be fun and
Yeah,
light.
so fun.
Um, can you talk a little bit about specific things that we're going to be doing, that we or that everyone could do
Mm.
to help us laugh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think just like the biggest piece in the beginning is just like opening yourself up to the possibility, right? Especially
Mm,
if there's any story blocking you that like this isn't for me, or like laughter's
hmm.
annoying, like people are too bubbly, like whatever story is getting in the way is like just awareness around it, and just, well, let me give it a shot, right? Like I don't have to believe anything, I don't have to buy into anything yet, but give yourself a try, an opportunity to just like be open to it. I
Hmm.
think
I
that's
love
huge.
that. Yeah,
Um,
I just wrote that one
because
down.
otherwise, yeah, yeah, it's not really gonna be helpful if you're not at least even just the tiniest bit open.
Yeah.
So I think like some important things that come to my mind of trying to foster like more of a laughter culture at home or for yourself, or just to open that piece of you up, that part of you. One thing that helps is really like expressing gratitude, doing a gratitude list
Mm-hmm.
where like that in itself is just a practice of being able to pick out and talk about, the few good things that happened or the things that you just, are appreciative, because it's just so easy and natural for us to focus on the things that went wrong, wrong, or like, just the more negative things. So a gratitude practice in itself can help open that up, which is huge. um Making time for laughter and
Mm,
seeking it out, like it is once again a skill and a practice that will not just come to you, like it is something that, like, if I want this to be a part of my life more, I need to make time for it, whether it's, calling a certain friend who has a great sense of humor that you always laugh at. Maybe it's, it doesn't have to be, it can be anything, going to a comedy show, it can be watching a certain show that you enjoy, it could be people watching, it could be anything, like, but what makes you laugh or what has made you laugh in the past, and how to surround yourself more with that for at least 10 minutes a day. That's nothing at all, but just to start, if it is something that does feel harder for you, you got to make time for it. And you have to figure out what are those things that I'm going to spend that time, doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. All right. So opening up, fostering it, making time for it.
Surrounding yourself with it.
And surrounding yourself with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which you're kind of setting me up to say, come to our workshop. And we didn't plan that. But on May 19th, those of you who are local that are listening to this, or those of you who are not, don't mind taking the journey. Sunday, May 19th at 1:30 in Salem, we are going to be doing a Laughter to Shift Your Stories workshop where you will be opening up. We will be fostering laughter and providing structured opportunities for you to laugh and to help shift some of your stories in order to do so.
Yes. And you don't have to be funny. You don't come with jokes. You don't have to, nothing like that. You do not have to be prepared in any way. All you have to do is come with an open mind. That's it.
Come with an open mind. Thank you for saying that, Jackie. And you may have to continue. I have to remind, like on newsletters and things like that, it's not a requirement. Yeah.
Nope. Even if you just sit there the whole time, like with other people laughing around you, you will still benefit from this. I promise.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So please come join us. It's going to be a hoot. It's going to be fun. www.jenniferhcarey.com/events. And when you go there, you will see ways that you can sign up and register for this workshop with a Laughter Facilitator Jackie DelVecchio.
Thanks, Jen.
There too.
This is great.
I know. Thank you.
I'm really excited and looking forward to it.
I am too. And this was a lot of fun. And I feel like I've gained so much just from preparing for this podcast and then even doing it, right? Lighten up, not tighten up.
Yes. Lighten up, not tighten up.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have found any of this inspiring or helpful, please share this episode with a friend. Visit www.jenniferhcarey.com for more information about my psychotherapy and coaching services, as well as upcoming events, workshops, and retreats. Wishing you joy, freedom, and healthy relationships.